My dear ones, listen closely. There comes a time in every life when the noise of the world becomes too loud to hear your own heartbeat. You look around and see people running in circles, chasing shadows, measuring their worth by the steps of another. And somewhere in the rush, you begin to lose yourself. You start believing that your value depends on the reflection in someone else's eyes. But I have come to tell you, that is not the truth. The truth is quiet, deep, and waiting within you. The truth says focus on yourself, not others. When you are born, you are whole. You are enough. You are not a comparison, you are not a competition. Yet as you grow, the world teaches you to measure your light by someone else's candle. It tells you to chase what they have, to look like them, to speak like them, to move at their pace. But when you start living through the mirror of others, you stop seeing the beauty of your own soul. You stop nurturing the garden within. And if you do not tend to your own roots, how can you expect to bloom? People will always talk. They will whisper when you rise and gossip when you fall. They will celebrate your silence and question your strength. But understand this. The opinions of others are not chains, unless you choose to wear them. You were not sent into this world to satisfy every tongue that speaks your name. You were sent to live truthfully, boldly, and beautifully, as only you can. So when the noise grows loud, when comparisons claw at your peace, remember, your journey is yours alone. There is a quiet power in focusing on yourself. It is not selfishness, it is survival. It is learning to feed your spirit when the world feeds off your energy. It is knowing that you cannot pour love from an empty cup, nor give light from a dim flame. The more you nurture your mind, the more you honor your heart, the stronger you become. And the world feels it. A person rooted in self-awareness does not sway with the winds of opinion. They bend, but they do not break. You must learn to sit with yourself, to sit in silence without fear, to face your reflection without judgment. There will be days when you look into the mirror and see only your scars, your flaws, your unfinished chapters. But those scars are not marks of weakness. They are medals of survival. They tell the story of every time you chose to rise instead of surrender. They remind you that even when the world turned cold, your spirit stayed warm. You are not defined by what others think of you. You are defined by how you rise after falling, how you love after being broken, how you keep walking when the road disappears beneath your feet. When you focus on others, you hand them the pen to write your story. When you focus on yourself, you reclaim it. The moment you stop trying to outshine someone else, you begin to discover the brilliance of your own light. Do not waste your days chasing validation. You cannot win a race that was never meant for you. Every soul on this earth has its own path, its own rhythm, its own destiny. Your only true competition is the person you were yesterday. Be patient with your growth. Flowers do not bloom overnight, and neither will you. The same sun that melts the wax hardens the clay. Some lessons are meant to come slowly, painfully, but necessarily. When you look at others and wish for their life, remember, you are envying their harvest while ignoring your own seeds. Water your roots. Tend to your soil. What is meant for you will bloom in its season, not a moment sooner. You will meet people who appear ahead, richer, wiser, happier. You will meet others who seem lost, broken, uncertain. But remember, comparison is the thief of gratitude. It steals the joy of your own journey. You do not know the battles that others fight behind their smiles. You do not know the nights they cried, the dreams they buried, the fears they hide. And they do not know yours. So why measure your life by another's steps when you were born to dance to your own rhythm? When you focus on yourself, you learn to forgive yourself. You learn that mistakes are not curses. They are lessons written in the language of growth. You stop apologizing for being human. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin to stand taller, speak clearer, love deeper. You begin to glow from a place that no one else can touch, and people will notice. Some will be inspired, others will be threatened. That is not your concern. Your task is not to please the world, but to please the truth that lives within you. You must learn to be alone without feeling lonely. There is a sacred kind of peace that comes from solitude. When you sit with your own company and realize it is enough, you become unshakable. The world may try to distract you, with its glitter, its voices, its endless comparisons. But once you have met your own soul, once you have fallen in love with your quiet power, you will not trade it for noise. You will not chase what no longer aligns with your peace. Growth is not loud. It does not demand attention. It happens quietly, like dawn creeping through the darkness. When you focus on yourself, you begin to notice this, how every small act of self-love changes the rhythm of your life. Waking up early, speaking kindly to yourself, letting go of what drains you, choosing peace over approval. It is these simple, consistent acts that rebuild your spirit from within. The world will tell you that focusing on yourself is pride. It is not. It is preparation. Before a tree gives fruit, it must root itself deeply. Before a bird flies, it must strengthen its wings. Before you pour into others, you must learn how to pour into yourself. You cannot light another's path while standing in darkness. Focus on your healing, your purpose, your growth, and the right people. The ones meant for your journey will meet you on that path. And understand, focusing on yourself does not mean you stop loving others. It means you love them better, because you no longer love them out of emptiness. You love from fullness. You help without losing yourself. You give without resentment. You become a well that replenishes rather than drains. And from that wholeness, your love becomes sacred. Your presence becomes medicine. Sometimes you must walk away, not because you hate someone, but because you love yourself enough to protect your peace. You cannot heal in the same place that hurt you. You cannot rise while clinging to those who want you small. There is no shame in stepping back, in saying, "I choose me." The world may not understand it, but your soul will. Peace is not selfish. It is necessary. You owe it to yourself to become everything you once needed. And do not be afraid of losing people when you begin to focus on yourself. The truth is, you will lose some. But you will not lose those meant to walk beside you. Those who truly love you will not fear your growth. They will celebrate your rise. They will applaud your boundaries. They will see your light and not feel threatened, but inspired. Let the rest fall away. Your energy is too precious to be wasted on convincing people of your worth. The day you stop seeking approval is the day you become free. You will wake up and realize you not need the applause of the crowd to validate your worth. You will not need to explain your choices, your dreams, or your silence. You will know who you are, and that knowledge will be enough. There is a dignity in walking your own path, even when no one understands it. There is a quiet grace in knowing your value, even when no one else sees it. Every time you choose yourself, the world shifts a little. Every time you say no to chaos, you say yes to peace. Every time you set a boundary, you teach others how to treat you. Every time you honor your truth, you honor the divine within you. And slowly you begin to transform. You begin to glow differently. Not because life is easier, but because you are stronger, wiser, softer in the right places, and unyielding in the rest. There will be tests. There will be voices that tell you you're wrong for focusing on yourself. But remember, you cannot carry everyone's burdens without drowning. You cannot heal others by breaking yourself. Let them call it selfish. You know it is sacred. You know it is necessary. You know that the world does not need another exhausted soul pretending to be okay. It needs people who have learned to breathe, to rest, to rise, to love themselves fiercely. When you focus on yourself, you begin to see life differently. The things that once bothered you lose their power. The people who once drained you fade into distance. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start flowing. You realize that peace is not something you find. It is something you create, moment by moment, through every choice you make. Focus on your growth. Focus on your healing. Focus on your purpose. The rest will come when it is time. You do not need to rush what is divine. You do not need to compete for what is yours. You only need to stay rooted in your truth and keep moving forward. One day, one breath, one prayer at a time. And when you feel lost, when the world tempts you to look left and right, to compare and doubt, come back to your center. Close your eyes. Breathe. Remind yourself, you are enough. You are whole. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. The process may be slow, the path may be lonely, but every step is sacred. Every wound is wisdom. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. So walk with grace. Speak with intention. Love with courage. And never again let the noise of others drown out the voice within you. For that voice, your voice, knows the way. It has always known. You only needed to listen. And when the day comes that you finally meet the version of yourself who no longer seeks to prove, who no longer chases, who no longer doubts, look at her, look at him, and whisper, "Thank you for never giving up." That is the moment you will understand what it truly means to focus on yourself. That is the moment you will stand in your power, unshaken, radiant, free. The world will always have something to say, but peace comes when you realize you no longer need to respond. You are not here to impress. You are here to express. You are not here to compete. You are here to complete yourself. You are not here to mirror others. You are here to master yourself. And when you do, when you finally anchor in your own truth, nothing and no one can take it from you. So I say it again softly, firmly, as a promise to your spirit. Focus on yourself. Not out of arrogance, but out of love. Not to escape the world, but to meet it with wholeness. Not to reject others, but to reconnect with your own divine rhythm. Because when you do, you become a light that does not flicker, a storm that does not destroy, a soul that does not beg, but blesses. You become your own home, and that, my dear ones, is the most beautiful thing you could ever become. True growth begins when you stop seeking validation and start nurturing your own spirit. The moment you stop living for applause, you begin to hear your own soul whispering what truly matters. Many people spend their entire lives chasing approval. The nod from a friend, the compliment from a stranger, the acknowledgement from a world that never seems satisfied. They measure their worth by how loudly others clap, forgetting that the truest applause is the quiet rhythm of a peaceful heart. You were not created to live under the weight of other people's opinions. The constant need for validation is a silent prison. It keeps you performing instead of becoming. When you no longer chase validation, you make room for authenticity. You begin to do things not for recognition, but for fulfillment. Your actions start flowing from purpose rather than pressure. You stop acting like someone who's waiting for permission to exist, and instead, you begin to live as someone who already knows they belong. Nurturing your own spirit means returning to yourself again and again, especially when the world tries to pull you away. It means asking yourself what you truly need. Not what will impress others, not what will make them stay, but what will make your soul feel alive. It is in those quiet moments of reflection that you begin to see who you really are beneath all the noise. You learn to speak kindly to yourself, to forgive yourself for the times you fell short, and to celebrate your small victories without needing an audience. Growth is not about becoming what others admire. It's about becoming who you were meant to be before the world told you who you should be. It's about choosing yourself in moments when it feels easier to disappear into the crowd. When you nurture your own spirit, you begin to move differently. You carry a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. You listen more and react less. You understand that peace is more valuable than popularity. The opinions of others lose their grip because you've found something more powerful: self-trust. You start to notice that validation from within feels different. It's not loud, not fleeting, not conditional. It is rooted in truth, and that truth grounds you in every storm. You realize that your worth was never meant to be negotiated, and you no longer hand it to others for approval. The love you begin to cultivate within yourself becomes a source of energy that cannot be taken away. It becomes the kind of love that strengthens your mind, feeds your purpose, and carries you through seasons of doubt. The journey of nurturing your own spirit is not glamorous. It requires solitude, patience, and honesty. It means sitting with your pain and asking what it's trying to teach you. It means choosing growth over comfort, truth over attention, and self-respect over validation. When you stop chasing the world's approval, you discover a quieter, deeper joy, the kind that no one can give you, and no one can take away. Comparison steals your peace and blinds you from recognizing your unique journey. The moment you start looking at someone else's path, you begin to lose sight of your own. It happens quietly, almost without notice. One day you wake up and realize that your joy has been replaced by envy, your gratitude by doubt, your confidence by the constant feeling of not being enough. You see others moving faster, shining brighter, achieving more, and you start questioning your worth. But what you fail to see is that every story has a background you cannot hear. Every success has a struggle you did not witness. Every light casts a shadow you cannot measure. When you compare your life to someone else's, you trade your peace for illusion. You start chasing a standard that was never meant for you, and in that chase, you lose the rhythm of your own becoming. Each person walks a path carved by their own experiences, lessons, and divine timing. What blooms for one in spring may not bloom for another until autumn, yet both are beautiful in their season. The world teaches you to look outward, to measure success by what others have achieved, to define beauty by what others look like, to calculate happiness by what others possess. But when your eyes are always fixed on someone else's light, you forget how bright your own could shine. You stop watering your garden because you're too busy admiring another's flowers. You forget that every seed grows differently, that some take longer to break through the soil, but when they do, they grow stronger roots. The peace you are looking for cannot be found by comparing your path to another's. It is found in embracing the pace and purpose that belong to you. Comparison blinds you to the blessings already in your hands. It makes you forget how far you've come, how much you've overcome, and how resilient you have been. You begin to diminish your own victories because they don't look like someone else's triumphs. You overlook the quiet moments of progress, the unseen strength it takes to keep going, the courage it takes to heal in silence. But those moments are the true markers of growth. When you focus too much on others, you miss the miracle happening within you. You miss the unfolding of your own story. You miss the lessons that are shaping you into who you are meant to become. Peace begins when you accept that your journey is sacred, even in its detours and delays. It begins when you stop asking, "Why am I not there yet?" and start saying, "I am exactly where I need to be." The moment you stop comparing, you begin to see the beauty in your own rhythm. You start appreciating the small steps that once went unnoticed. You begin to realize that life is not a race, and the only person you are meant to outgrow is the one you were yesterday. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is the foundation of strength and self-respect. The world often confuses self-focus with arrogance, but there is a vast difference between loving yourself and being consumed by pride. True self-focus is an act of care, a promise to honor your own needs before the noise of others drowns them out. It is a declaration that you deserve to be whole, that you deserve to heal, that you deserve to grow without apology. Too many people pour themselves empty trying to keep everyone else full. They say yes when their soul is begging for rest. They carry the pain of others while neglecting their own. And over time, they forget who they were before they became what everyone needed them to be. But when you begin to focus on yourself, you slowly reclaim your identity piece by piece. You begin to ask what brings you peace, what nourishes you, what makes your spirit rise instead of shrink. Focusing on yourself is not isolation, it is alignment. It is choosing to listen to your inner voice before you chase external validation. It is understanding that you cannot build a strong connection with others if you are disconnected from yourself. The more you nurture your own heart, the more compassion you can give without losing yourself in the process. It teaches you balance. How to love deeply without surrendering your boundaries. How to care without being consumed. How to give without abandoning your own needs. This is the kind of strength that doesn't shout. It radiates quietly from within. When you start tending to your own well-being, you begin to walk differently. You no longer move from desperation or fear, but from purpose and clarity. The people around you feel it too. Your energy shifts from exhaustion to peace, from needing to please to simply being. Self-focus builds self-respect because it reminds you of your worth. You stop accepting less than what you deserve. You stop explaining your choices to those who refuse to understand your peace. You stop apologizing for taking space in your own life. The strength that comes from within is unshakable because it isn't borrowed from the approval of others. It is built from every boundary you set, every truth you honor, every moment you choose rest over chaos. You begin to understand that focusing on yourself allows you to become the version of you that was buried under expectations and noise. And once that version begins to rise, you feel a power that is steady, patient, and quiet. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself because it already knows its worth. The foundation of all genuine connection, success, and peace is self-respect. When you focus on yourself, you strengthen that foundation. You stop waiting for others to treat you right, because you begin to treat yourself right first. You set the tone for how the world responds to you by the way you respond to yourself. You learn that your needs are not inconveniences, they are reminders that you are human, deserving, and enough inner peace comes from silence, reflection, and the courage to stand alone. The world around you is constantly loud, filled with opinions, judgments, distractions, and expectations that pull you in every direction. It tells you to move faster, to achieve more, to keep talking, to stay visible. But it rarely tells you to be still. Yet peace is born in stillness. It lives in the quiet moments when you pause long enough to hear your own thoughts and feel your own heartbeat. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. In silence, you meet yourself without the masks the world has asked you to wear. You learn what truly matters to your soul, what pain you've been avoiding, what dreams you've been silencing beneath your fears. When you take the time to be alone with your thoughts, you begin to untangle yourself from the chaos around you and find the rhythm that belongs only to you. Reflection is how your soul speaks back to you. It is how you grow in wisdom, how you learn from the moments that once wounded you. Most people run from reflection because it requires honesty. It asks you to face the things you pretend not to see, the habits that hurt you, the relationships that drain you, the choices that don't align with who you want to become. But when you choose reflection over avoidance, something changes. You begin to see that pain was never your enemy, it was your teacher. You begin to see how far you've come and how much you've learned simply by surviving what once broke you. Reflection helps you release the need to control everything and teaches you to trust the unfolding of your life. It transforms regret into understanding and confusion into clarity. The courage to stand alone is perhaps the most powerful form of peace. It means standing firm in your truth even when others walk away. It means saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. It means not fearing solitude, but embracing it as sacred space for growth. There is a deep kind of peace that only solitude can bring. The kind that teaches you you're enough, even when no one is clapping. The kind that reminds you that your worth is not tied to being needed, wanted, or understood. The courage to stand alone builds strength that cannot be shaken, because it is rooted in truth, not approval. It teaches you to rely on your inner guidance rather than external noise. You stop begging for validation and start trusting your intuition. When silence, reflection, and solitude come together, they create a sanctuary within you that no chaos can invade. They teach you that peace is not something you find in the world. It's something you build within yourself through presence, honesty, and courage. It grows stronger every time you choose quiet over noise, truth over comfort, and solitude over the company of those who do not honor your soul. When you heal yourself, you naturally elevate the energy of everyone around you. Healing is not just a personal act. It ripples outward, like sunlight spilling over everything it touches. When you begin to address the pain within you, when you stop hiding from the wounds and start tending to them, something powerful happens. Your energy shifts. You become softer, yet stronger. You begin to see others not through the eyes of judgment, but through the lens of compassion. Healing transforms how you speak, how you love, how you listen. It quiets the chaos inside you, and in that quiet others find peace too. People feel your calmness, your strength, your balance, and they start to breathe easier in your presence. You become a reminder that healing is possible, that peace is not a myth, and that resilience can exist even after deep pain. Healing is not an easy path. It asks you to revisit memories you've buried, to face emotions you've ignored, and to release people and patterns that no longer belong to your growth. But through that painful honesty, you reclaim pieces of yourself that were lost along the way. Every time you forgive yourself, every time you let go of anger, every time you choose peace instead of reaction, you lift the weight that once made you small. You begin to walk differently, slower, but more intentional. The energy you once used to protect your pain transforms into energy that radiates light. You no longer project your hurt onto others, because you've learned to sit with it, understand it, and transform it. And that transformation becomes medicine for everyone who crosses your path. When you heal, you stop seeking in others what you have already found within. You stop demanding from people the love and validation you've learned to give yourself. You begin to create healthier relationships because you no longer need to fill your emptiness through them. Instead, you connect from wholeness, not from wounds. Healing turns bitterness into understanding and resentment into release. It allows you to look at people not as enemies, but as mirrors that once showed you what you needed to heal. And as you rise into that awareness, your presence alone becomes healing for others. You begin to speak words that uplift instead of wound. You start to respond with patience instead of pain. And without even trying, you inspire others to begin their own journey toward peace. Energy is contagious. A healed soul carries light that cannot be hidden. It draws people in not through effort, but through authenticity. When you choose to heal, you raise the vibration of your surroundings. You become an example of what it means to grow through what tried to break you. You teach others, silently, that they too can survive their storms. Healing is not selfish, it is service. Every time you choose peace over reaction, every time you choose forgiveness over blame, every time you choose to rise again, you lift not only yourself, but the hearts of those who watch you do it. Choosing yourself is not abandoning others. It's honoring your own divine purpose. The world often teaches you that self-sacrifice is a sign of love, that giving until you are empty is noble, that saying yes when you want to say no is kindness. But there comes a moment in every soul's journey when you realize that true love, for others and for yourself, cannot exist without boundaries. Choosing yourself does not mean turning your back on others. It means no longer turning your back on yourself. It means finally listening to that small, persistent voice inside that says, "You deserve to live a life that feels like your own." It means allowing yourself to exist fully, without guilt, without apology, without fear of disappointing those who never intended to understand you. When you begin to choose yourself, you start seeing life with new eyes. You start noticing the spaces where you've been shrinking to make others comfortable, the moments where you've silenced your truth to keep the peace, the situations where you've been giving love that was never returned. You begin to see how often you've betrayed your own heart just to be accepted by people who were never meant to walk your path. And that realization hurts, because it forces you to face the truth, that you have been the one standing in your own way. But within that truth lies power. The moment you take responsibility for your peace, your healing, your joy, you take back the authority you unknowingly gave away. Choosing yourself is an act of courage. It requires you to trust that what is meant for you will not leave when you start honoring yourself. It means believing that you are not too much for the right people, not too ambitious for the right dreams, not too honest for the right spaces. It means walking away from what no longer serves your spirit, even when it feels lonely, even when it means starting over. The world may call it selfish, but your soul knows it is sacred. When you begin to honor your own divine purpose, your entire energy changes. You stop chasing what was never aligned and start attracting what resonates with your truth. You stop begging for love and start embodying it. You stop waiting to be chosen and finally choose yourself. To choose yourself is to listen when your body says rest, when your heart says let go, when your intuition says no. It is to understand that not every battle deserves your energy, and not every invitation deserves your presence. It is to protect your peace the way you would protect someone you love deeply, because you should love yourself that deeply. This kind of love is not indulgent. It is liberating. It allows you to show up for others not from emptiness, but from overflow. You begin to give freely, without resentment, because you are no longer giving what you cannot afford to lose. When you choose yourself, you give permission to others to do the same. You become an example of what wholeness looks like. Someone who can love deeply without losing their own reflection in another's eyes. Honoring your own divine purpose means trusting that your path, your timing, and your calling are unique. It means knowing that you cannot fulfill your destiny while living someone else's dream. The world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs you, exactly as you are meant to be. Every time you silence your truth to fit in, the world loses a piece of your light. But every time you stand tall in your authenticity, you remind others that they too can be free. The divine purpose that lives within you is not small. It is vast, radiant, and waiting to unfold. To honor it, you must stop apologizing for your light and stop dimming it to comfort those still afraid of their own. Choosing yourself is not a betrayal of love. It is the purest form of it. Because when you honor your own path, you teach others to do the same. When you follow your truth, you contribute something real and powerful to the world. A version of yourself that is whole, awake, and at peace. And that wholeness becomes a gift that touches everything and everyone around you.